Listen y'all, I'm not naive. I'm in the Deadlock communities, and I know that if I'm making a video about feet, Deadlock, and footsteps and whatnot, that there's going to conjure up some certain expectations about who this video is going to be about. But we're not going to talk about them today. We're going to remain professional, and we're going to talk about the audio design of Footsteps and Deadlock and what that tells us about the ideal player experience that I believe the game designers want us to have. In most shooters, the main function Footsteps provide us with is where, and to a degree, when, since most games have predictable movement speeds. In games like Counter-Strike and Valorant especially, Footsteps are an essential part of gathering information about your enemy's location, but they have one key difference. Valorant agents have personalized footsteps, but in Counter-Strike, everybody sounds the same. It's interesting that Riot keeps the ability to differentiate between the different agents' footsteps as something for more advanced players, whereas in Deadlock, each hero has such unique footsteps that even the new player can start to hear the difference between them and tell who's coming from where. What caught my attention for this video is that some characters have much quieter footsteps like Vindicta, but somebody like Infernus has insanely loud footsteps. Vindicta is at risk if she's close to her enemies, whereas Infernus is a risk if he's close to his enemies. I believe the game's designers made this decision that Vindicta should be kept safe while walking around because the gameplay involved with needing to knock her out of the sky is much more engaging than that of chasing her through narrow hallways and buildings. Whereas the opposite is true for Infernus, whose largest contribution to exciting gameplay is when we see him running into a team while charging his ultimate. Since Infernus is such a threat up close, his footsteps need to be louder because in addition to the sound his ultimate makes as it charges, they can also telegraph his engage. Vindicta is the opposite, where her flying and ultimate can be heard from far away to telegraph her being a threat. But we'll talk more about ability telegraphs in another video. Let's analyze the actual footsteps in Deadlock. It's a bit misleading to refer to them as footsteps because most heroes, especially the louder ones, have sounds which play intermittently during movement without being triggered by a specific step. One way this could be programmed is that whenever the hero begins moving, a timer of a random length is started. When that timer runs out, a random sound is selected from a pool of potential sounds that define the hero's kit. For most heroes, this would just play sounds of their clothing like Paradox's coat or Dynamo's squeaking. But for some like Lash or Seven, it would also play more specific one-shot samples. To create Infernus' footsteps, I've layered some dress shoes with 2 layers of lower and softer fire, 1 layer of less frequent flame whooshes, and some small foley to add details like keys and fabric. Something I didn't fit nicely into the video is that there's no surface variation for any of the footsteps in Deadlock yet, like even on the grass or the bridges or the grates above secret shops. I'm sure that's coming, but right now, as I'm making this video, that doesn't actually exist. As many of you know who play Counter-Strike or anything else really, that's really important to tell where your enemies are and is something for more advanced players to know, like, oh, I'm hearing the grate sound in this location in the map. That means they're there. How long were they walking on it, etc., etc. Tells you a lot of information, and I think that'll come to Deadlock eventually. Something I found also is that Wraith doesn't make a sound when she lands, and Seven's crouch walk animation looks hilarious because the top of his body doesn't move and he looks like a crab. Alright, I needed this bigger view because I like to talk with my hands. It was crazy cool to see that much interest on my first video. Like, blew anything I expected out of the water, and I am so thankful to everybody who tuned in. I know it's not like a ton of stuff compared to other YouTubers and whatever, but I never saw myself as a YouTuber. I'm just an audio nerd guy. I just wanted to make some videos. I'm learning as I do this. This is the second video I've ever edited in my life, so appreciate if you give me a bit of slack as I learn, but this is a subject I think is really cool. Hope you're warm, well-rested, safe, and that you have the day you deserve. Okay, bye.